Hello, everybody. How are you on this beautiful day? I pray and trust that you're doing quite well. And if it's not going well, that you will adopt the saying that my father-in-law used to always tell everybody. He wouldn't ask them, "Are you having a good day?" Or he wouldn't say, "Have a good day." He would say, "Make it a good day," because really it's up to us whether or not our day's good or not. In that true? We decide if it's good or not. Even though our circumstances may not be that great, we can still have a great day. So today, I'm telling you that so that I can take a dose of my own medicine, if you will, or my own advice, because today is my 53rd wedding anniversary. And so this live stream probably won't be real long today. But I had a choice. I could have just said, "Oh, I'm not going to do one," because I think it'll be too hard or too sad and whatever. But I decided no, I'm going to come up here and do one, um, and I just want to share a few thoughts about marriage, and then just tell a few stories about my life with my beautiful husband, Michael Lee Hankins. And he was hopefully I won't cry, but I won't guarantee it. Um, he was a great, great man. I run into people all the time, and I get messages from people all the time about things that Mike did for them or said to them I wasn't even aware of. People that don't even go to church, that he just knew at the gym, or he knew at, the hair salon, or whatever the case may be. And they tell me, he was like a pastor to me. And that just blesses me to know that Mike wasn't just a pastor on the platform here at the church, but that the calling of God on him was something that he carried with him everywhere he went. And he never met a stranger, and he was not a person who was moved by what people had or didn't have. He treated everybody the same. And I'm just honored that God chose me to be his helpmate for almost 52 years. We were married on May 30th, 1970, in the booming metropolis of Wharton, Texas, at the First Baptist Church on Saturday night at 8 p.m. And my whole life changed, and it's been a glorious, glorious journey. Overall, there have been some hardships, but praise God, the Lord brought us through all of those. But I was just thinking about stories I could tell, because there's tons of stories I could tell about our marriage over the years, but I won't. I'll just talk about a few. But I did want to show a couple of pictures today, just in honor of the day. Mike was big on celebrating. He liked to celebrate our anniversary. He liked to celebrate birthdays. He always made sure there was a gift or a card, and I'm just so grateful now that I have all these beautiful cards that he wrote me over the years. I'm still finding them. When I go through a box, I'll still find some, from back in the 80s or however far back, and just he always encouraged me. He always lifted me up. He always was complimentary. And then, there was times when I probably didn't deserve it at all, but he just loved me for who I was, and he loved the real me. Just like I loved, when you make and marry somebody, if you're young, obviously there's going to be some sort of a physical attraction, and they're going to think you're pretty, or you're going to think he's handsome, and that's great. But I just want to tell you, as the years go by, the outer man changes. The Bible says so. It says that our outer man perishes day by day, but our inner man is being renewed day by day. That's why sometimes you hear people say, well, they're getting older, and they'll go, well, I still feel young on the inside. That's because their spirit's being renewed day by day. And that doesn't mean we don't take care of our outer man and do our best to continue to look as nice as we can for our husband or our wife. But that does mean, I remember one night Mike and I were watching something on TV. Oh, I know what it was. He used to like to watch that show. I think it was called Botched. It was about people who had gone in to have these different plastic surgery procedures done, and they were really, most of them were like really bizarre procedures that most of normal people wouldn't even do, and most of them already had a bunch of stuff already done to themselves, and so whoever did the last one had messed it up, and though they're coming into these two guys to look to see if they can help them fix what the last guy messed up. And so some of them were just like, basically they told some people, you know what? No, we're not. If they wanted to do more plastic surgery, these two guys would go, I'm sorry, we're not touching you. No, we're not doing that. You just need to stop. You've done too much already. And so we were laughing one night about it, and so we were just talking about people who've had too much plastic surgery, and Mike popped off over there and he says, well, one thing I know, he said, you can delay it, but you can't deny it. By that he meant you can delay aging, but you can't deny it, because aging is going to overtake you one day, because it's just life. If we live to be 80 or 90 years old, more than likely we're going to start looking 80 or 90 years old. And there's just so much a plastic surgeon can do. And so I said all that to say that Mike loved me through every stage of life. So I looked really, really good when he met me. But as the years went by and I had children and different things, and, I put on a little weight, and I've had many. One day he said, Vicki, I could put out a book called The Many Hairdos of Vicki, because I've had long, short, in between, curly, straight. I've had frosted, we called it frosted, which is highlighted, frosted hair, your natural dishwater blonde hair, red hair. I mean, I've had it all, and Mike never said to me, ooh, what you do to yourself, or, ooh, Vicki, you look terrible, or, ooh, you need to lose some weight. Even though probably all three of those were accurate, he never said that to me. He just loved me anyway, and that's just the kind of person he was, and I miss him very much, because pampered. Oh yeah, he pampered me, and probably more so in the later years than he did when. But he would. I guess I could say he pampered me in different ways when we were younger, because. Well, anyway, I have some scripture I want to read. I might tell some of those things, but he always helped me. He was my helper, and I was his helper, and. I miss him. I miss my best friend, and so celebrate. The day of your marriage without your mate is, well, I'd just be honest with you. To be honest, it's just the pits, is what it is. I have great memories. Yes, I have great memories, but the memories are not Mike right here, and so I know he's in heaven. And I told him, I said, it's really not fair. Now you have your glorified body, and you're looking all young and good again, and I'm still down here, denying it. I'm still down here denying the aging thing. So one day, I know we'll be reunited, but I brought some pictures, and Pastor Carl is going to put those up. The first one is of our wedding in Wharton, Texas, and I always loved this photo because the photographer, which we had a cheap photographer, one of his friends had gotten married like maybe a year before us, and they had used this photographer. And so we are on a limit. When I say limited budget, I mean we're on worse than a shoestring. We're like whatever's smaller than a shoestring, we were on that. I was wore my cousin's dress. Thank God it fit me, and because it was at the Baptist church, we didn't have to pay any fees or anything like that. And I'm sure I don't remember what my parents did. They paid for something, I know, but I had to pay for stuff too. Like I had to help pay for flowers, and I don't remember what all I had to pay for with my little paycheck, but that I got working at the newspaper office. But the main reason we chose this guy was because he was cheap, and I don't think we ever saw their pictures. They just said, "Oh, he did a great job. They're just wonderful. They're great." So we just took their word for it. And they were okay, except they were just like with a regular camera, like I could have gotten my uncle to just take pictures of us. They weren't professional pictures. So when this one came back, I was like shocked because I thought, wow, this looks kind of professional. Because what he did, he went up in the balcony of the Baptist church and took it from up there. And actually, you could see the bridesmaids and the groomsmen in the picture, but we blocked it out. I blocked it out for this photo, but um, he was actually singing to me in that photo, so that makes it even more special. Whenever we got engaged, the first thing he said was, "I'm going to sing to you at our wedding." And I'm like, "You are?" He went, "Yeah." He said, "I saw somebody do it one time, and I thought it was really cool, and I decided whoever I marry, I'm going to sing to him." I said, well, "Okay, And he told me, I'm gonna sing the song More. Remember that song, "More than the greatest love the world has known. This is the love I give to you alone." That song. It was real popular about that time. And it's a beautiful song, and the words in it would have been perfect. But when he told his parents, they went, "No, you're not. You're not singing that secular song." And he somehow or other, his parents, who never darkened the door of a movie theater, somehow, I guess they read in the paper maybe, that this song was from a movie called Mondo Conti or something like that, Mondo Conti, something like that. And it evidently it had some not too good of stuff in it. It was about a guy who had an affair with a woman or something. I don't remember, but we don't care about that. We just like the song. No, they said, "No, you're not singing it to her." So he had to go dig around and find some old wedding song. And so he came up with this song called "Because." And the reason he picked it was because it had one line in it that says, "Because God made you mine, I'll cherish you. I'll cherish thee." And so he sang that, and he did a good job. And, really, he could have sung "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," and it wouldn't have mattered to me. The fact that he wanted to sing to me in front of all those people just touched my heart. And, in fact, even years later, I ran into people who were at my wedding, and they always bring that up. They said, "Wow, whenever Mike sang to you, I have to tell you, the waterworks happened. I just started crying. I just had never seen that before, where the groom sang to his bride." And so it made an impression on people. And anyway, I just thought that was a pretty picture from 53 years ago that I wanted to share with all of you. Mike had black hair, and actually that's I forget what you called that, but it was a little hairpiece that I wore to the prom the year before, and it had like curls in it. And I don't know why I didn't just go to the beauty shop and have them put my hair up in a French twist or something like that. But that's what that is. And when we got to the hotel that night, people back then, they threw rice on you when you left the reception. And when we got back to the room that night and I took that hairpiece off, rice just went all over the floor. It was all embedded in that hairpiece. But that was a beautiful night, and I'm just glad that I married him. So next picture will be this picture is our 1-year anniversary. Since I'm talking about an anniversary, I thought it'd be nice to share the picture of our 1-year anniversary. There's a story behind that. We were living in Tulsa, and so we went to West Columbia, and it just happened to be our anniversary. And it was on a Sunday. And so, of course, we went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night. We went to CA's, and after this service, we went back to Mike's parents' house, and his mom had saved the top of our cake. I actually have a picture of us feeding each other cake that night, but I couldn't find it. It's somewhere in a box, and. Later, Mike said, because I didn't even think like, well, I can't believe that he's brought me to his parents' house on our 1-year anniversary, and we're sleeping in his sister's bed back here, and I mean, I didn't even think that I was being mistreated or I felt bad, and I just thought it was normal, And you can see I look really happy right there. I wasn't complaining or anything like that, and. When Mike looks at that picture, he'd always say, Oh my Lord, why have I got a pen stuck in my pocket? And I said, hey, that's what guys did back then. He probably just stuck their pen in their pocket. And by this time, I was 19, and Mike was 21, I guess. He was 21. And somebody saw that picture and they said, man, he looks a lot like Paxton, or Paxton looks a lot like him. And I think that curly black hair and shape of his face, he does. So anyway, that was the 1 year anniversary. And then you can see how much we've changed between that one and the next one. This was the last time we celebrated our anniversary. This was May 30th, 2021. And someone had blessed us with 4 or 5 nights of the Ritz in Dallas. And so we had just gone to dinner and had come back in from dinner. And if you've ever been into the Ritz Hotel's foyer, they have these round tables and they always have beautiful flower arrangements on them. I won't say this is one of the prettiest ones I've seen with the green and the pink, but that was the one they had that night. So we asked someone passing by if they'd take our picture. But yeah, I love my husband very much and still do, always will, and miss him beyond words. So anyway, that's my pictures for you today. But I looked up a few scriptures on marriage I just wanted to read before we close. Genesis 2, verse 18 said, "Then the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him." Mike and I always felt, and I still do, that it was, some people, I think someone asked a question, do you believe that there's one person for another person? Personally, I do. I mean, by that I mean, I could have married anybody I wanted to. Mike could have married anybody he wanted to. But I believe that Mike was the person that God had chosen for me, and I'm the one that God chose for Mike. Because just of the supernatural circumstances, the way God moved to bring us together it was supernatural, because there was no reason in the world for our paths to cross ever. But God started maneuvering things around a year prior to that, actually farther back than that, farther back than a year. And so I believe that I was the helpmate that God made that was fit for Mike. And whoever in your marriage as a woman, you're to be a helpmate to your husband. And I read this, I thought it was good. It says, the helper is one who supplies strength in the area that is lacking in the one who is being helped. It does not imply that the helper is either stronger or weaker than the one being helped, but fit for him or matching him. And that is not the same as being like him. Mike and I we were not alike at all. We were very different, but we complemented each other. And it goes on to say, a wife is not her husband's clone. She is to complement him. And I think that's so good, and I think the husband compliments the wife as well, because I know when Mike went to heaven, there was things I was feeling, but I didn't really know how to express them. But one of the things that I said was, I feel like Mike validated me. It's like he added value to me. And so that part of that comes from him complimenting me. And I don't mean I don't mean him giving me a compliment, which he did, but I meant he complimented who I was, like the person I was. He made the person I was better because I was with him. And I complimented him, so hopefully I made him better by being with him. And it's just like a hand in a glove. It just, you've got the glove. The glove is not any good without the hand in it. It's kind of like that way when the Holy Spirit gets on the inside of us, when we ask Jesus in our heart, we're just sort of an empty glove, and then the hand goes into it, and it becomes one. And as a husband and wife, you become one. And it's, he created the institution of marriage. He created it. And that is why the devil is he's on a path of destruction, because he wants to destroy the institution of marriage. He wants to destroy the home. And I'm not a wife in that sense anymore. I miss that. I miss being a wife. I wasn't a great wife, but I was a good wife to Mike. I've got some areas, as we all do, that I could have done better in. But overall, I was a good wife to him, in the fact that I loved him, obviously, but I supported him. I wasn't always pulling against him on everything. My mother-in-law told me years ago, because we were in ministry, but really this goes for anybody, that in ministry, a wife can make or break her husband. And I've seen it in living color played out so many times, couples that the wife just refused to compliment her husband in ministry, and he would be over here doing this and she'd just be off over here doing her thing. And one couple I won't name comes to mind, and we would have like ministers get-togethers, and he would always be there by himself. Or if he went to a conference, he was always by himself. She never came with him. In fact, there was two people I'm thinking of. In one situation, I never even met the woman. She never showed up to anything. And I guess she went to church. I suppose she went to church, but I guess you have to admire him. He just kept being a pastor and doing what he felt he was supposed to do. But I thought, there's no way on earth that I would just sit at home and just do my thing while Mike did ministry. No way. And we say, no way, Jose. It would never have happened in our house. So no, we were one. When the hand slipped in the glove, it stayed in there, and we worked together. And it is true that it's not good for man to be alone, because I've experienced that the last 17 months. I've experienced being alone, and I can vouch for the fact that being together is much better than being alone. Genesis 2:24 and Ephesians 5:31 say, "For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." One translation says that a man will leave his father and mother and will cleave to his wife. I did a message several years back called "Leave It to the Cleavers." That show was Leave It to Beaver. Well, it's kind of a play on words. It was Leave It to the Cleavers, and it was about marriage. But cleave means to adhere firmly to, or closely to, or loyally, or unwaveringly. It means fasten. It means fuse. It means glue. It means so. So when you become one flesh, that's a mystery. It's hard to understand how that happens, but it happens supernaturally. And so whenever your mate leaves the earth, there's a tearing that takes place, and because you're one and now you're not, and it's an interesting phenomena. It's an interesting thing to walk through. I actually felt that. I actually felt that when Mike left. I felt that tearing in me. It was indescribable. But we walk together as one, and I think a lot of these things, a lot of these marital marriage truths, we grew in over the years. In the early years of marriage, there was just some things that probably we weren't doing properly because we were young. We were learning, kind of growing up together, if you will. On Mother's Day, I posted a picture on Facebook of a pair of yellow Playtex rubber gloves, and the reason I did was because it was my second Mother's Day, and Julie was 2, and we had almost 2, and we had just moved back to West Columbia to work with his parents, and so it was Mother's Day, and we go over to his mom's house, and uh, he has Julie come in with a package, and I unwrap it, and it's these yellow Playtex rubber gloves. Well, we were living in this little house that had no dishwasher, and it was just a little frame house. It was tiny, and so I was complaining one day that my hands were getting all rough from having to wash all these dishes because we didn't have a dishwasher. So Mike, he was being practical, and he thought he was being helpful, and so he bought me those yellow rubber gloves. And so I guess in one sense I was glad I got the gloves. I just hadn't planned on getting them for a Mother's Day gift. And so Mike goes outside, and he comes back in, and he's carrying this big plant. Remember those plants that, I don't know what you call them, but they're not a fern, but people would hang them up and they would spill over and they hung down, spider plants or something. I'm not sure what they were called, but he brings this beautiful green plant in and gives it to his mother after he'd given me the yellow rubber gloves. Boy, I was starting to feel a little bit, some steam building up in there, like, what in the world is this? So we get in the car to go home, and I went, yellow rubber gloves, and then you give your mother a beautiful plant, and you gave me yellow rubber gloves? And Mike's reply to me, which was not smart at the time, he said, well, you're not my mother. And I went, well, I'm not, but I'm the mother of your child back there. Anyway, it took him, he was a little bit, he didn't want to admit at that moment he was wrong. But see, that goes back to immaturity. The immaturity of getting married young. You don't know everything yet. You grow into these truths of marriage. And I hate to see couples that throw in the towel in marriage when they're young and have been married that long, and it's usually over. Sometimes it's something major, but usually it's just over frivolous things. I'm like, they're just being human, honey. You just need to get over it. They'll outgrow it one day, or they'll learn better, and you help train them, and they'll help train you. Because Mike had pet peeves about me as well. I remember his 2 pet peeves he used to talk about, which are not big deals, but in the early days of marriage, I left the toothpaste lid off the toothpaste. I'd squeeze it in the middle and stuff like that, and leave the cabinet doors open, and he bumped his head on it. Just things like that he had to train me, and he did, and I finally quit doing that. But when your husband leaves, the biggest issue that I see a lot of times is that a couple gets married, but the husband does not leave and cleave. I mean, he did leave, but he ain't cleaving to his wife. He's still got a connection to the parents. And I'm not talking about never talking to your parents or seeing your parents, but there's this emotional attachment that once you get married, that emotional attachment that you had to your parents now goes to your wife. You still love your parents, but any issues that come up, and then for the wife, any issues that come up, you need to resolve them together, not with the help of your parents. I had a friend that every time her husband did something she didn't like, she'd call her mother. And I told Mike, I said, listen, you don't have to worry about me ever calling my mother, because if I called my mother about something you did that was just that hurt my feelings or whatever, she would get mad at you, and she'd probably never get over it. 20 years from now, I would have forgotten about it the next week, and she'd still be thinking about it. So, no, I won't be telling my mother any of the stuff that I feel you've done me wrong with. And I knew that he wasn't going to discuss any issues like that with his mother or father. He did sometimes talk to his parents to seek their counsel as ministers and as parents on a personal level with personal things. But when it came to issues or things that we had together, those were things that we discussed and we worked out ourselves, and nobody else knew about them. And that's really how it should be. And I can say that at the time it was probably like, it was rough. It was like giving blood, because you had to admit your part in it, and he had to admit his part in it. But at the end of the day, you had to forgive one another. But those were the times that really our relationship was strengthened. Our union together was strengthened. It was fused and fastened even tighter than it was the night we said I do. And it's interesting how walking through storms, the storms of life together, if you allow it, will strengthen your relationship with your mate. Many times it pulls people apart, but it's not meant to. It should pull you closer together. And because you walk through it together, that's what it says. It's good that man not be alone. You know, and there's another scripture that says, two are better than one. Because if one falls, he has the other one there to help pick him up. And woe to the one that doesn't have anybody there. And that is so true. I mean, I miss Mike in many ways, just the dailies of life that we shared with each other. A lot of times when I'm late coming in here, it's because, or if I'm late coming into church, it's because I've had to take care of I had to dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and do all the stuff that needed to be done before I could leave. Before he and I shared the responsibility. He took care of this, I took care of that. And if he couldn't take care of his, I did, and vice versa. So marriage is a beautiful institution. It's a beautiful thing. And the one story I want to share before I close on cleaving to your husband. And he's told this before, and I think I even wrote it in a Be Aware. Was right after we moved to West Columbia, and we were living in that little frame house, and I was pregnant with Lindy. And so this would have been in the fall of '74. And I don't know what happened. We had some kind of an argument. I don't even know what it was. I can guarantee you it was just something silly, because when you're young and you're immature, the things you fight over are immature, silly things. They really are. At the time, they just seemed so, this is just, I can't believe it. I look back on it now, I'm like, that wouldn't have even fazed me now. But I forget what it was. That just shows you there was nothing. But we got in some kind of a little argument, and I told him I'm leaving. Well, I'm leaving. He's like, okay, you leave then. So I went out and got in the car. We only had one car. Well, no, we had two cars. We still had the red Volkswagen, but I couldn't drive it because it was a stick shift. And then we had bought another car when we were in Tulsa. So I got in that car, and I'm driving. I get in, and I'm driving down the street in West Columbia. So I'm driving, and I'm thinking, I don't even have Julie with me. I don't forget where she was. She might have been over at Mike's mother's house or something. And I'm thinking, where am I going? What am I going to do? Where am I going? And then it dawned on me. I think I drove around the block, basically. In West Columbia, the blocks are really small. So I wasn't gone long at all. So I drove around the block. I may have gone a couple of times just for added whatever. And I pull back in the driveway, and I walk in the house, and Mike's like, what are you doing back? And I burst into tears. And I said, I don't have any place to go. And he just came over and hugged me and told me he loved me, and that was the end of that. And I wrote in my Be Aware, I think I wrote this, that couples today just have too many options. They have too many options about where they can go, what they can do if this doesn't work out. Listen, we didn't go into our marriage with if this doesn't work out. We went into our marriage with till death do us part. And that's what we did. And I can say that we both kept our covenant. Mike was a faithful man, and I was a faithful woman. And I'm just so grateful that I had 52 years, almost like he passed in December, and then our anniversary would have been in May. So just about 5 months short of 52 years. And then about, probably 6 months shy of me meeting him. So 53 years of knowing one another. I'm just so grateful that I had all that time with him. And I know that we'll be reunited in heaven. I don't know what it'll be like. I know there's no giving or taking of marriage. And I told the Lord, I went, yeah, but I'm already married. I'm like, I'm not going to be getting married up there. I'm already married. So what about that? But he hadn't replied to me yet. But someone said that you're not married to anybody up there. You're just up, you're just whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to grasp it with my natural mind. So, but I told the Lord, I know you said you go prepare a place for me, and that there's many mansions in your Father's house, and so I would like for my mansion to be right next to Mike's mansion, or if I could live in his mansion, that'd be even better. So, anyway, those are all just earthly musings and human reasonings. But whatever it is, it'll be better than what I expect. I can guarantee you. So thank you today for listening. I want to continue on next week with the Shake It Off that I spoke last week, because I want to continue on with that, to give you ways to stay free once you have shook off the things that have attached themselves to you to try to stop you, to hinder you, to even kill you, take you out in this life prematurely. And so we'll talk about that on the following Tuesday. But today was my anniversary, and I just wanted to give honor where honor is due, and just to let everybody know that that I married a great man, and it was a great loss for me and a great loss for this world, really. And so thank you for watching, and I love you. And if you think about me today, you might say a prayer for me, because, as hard as I try not to be sad, I am a little sad because I miss him so much, and he's not here to celebrate our love anymore. And so just keep me in your prayers. I know you do. I love and appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for watching. I know 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon is not a great time to watch live stream, but hopefully you'll have the time to go back and watch it later if you missed the live version. So I love each and every one of you, and have a great day. God bless.